Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. The webinar will begin shortly. So I'd like to turn everything over to Kevin, who will be leading us through this. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Kevin Dillon here. Do we want to go ahead and get started, or do we want to give it another minute for some folks to join?
I think we can go ahead and get started. We got a pretty good turnout already, so.
Okay, we've got a lot to cover as well. So
yeah, we do.
Okay, good. So here's what we're going to do then today. We're going to talk about actionable intelligence, and this is really focused on sports teams and how to create a 365-degree fan view. And the idea here is 360 degrees all around with the additional 365 days a year. So our idea here and what we're going to talk about is how to create, and actually let me jump to the agenda, how to create a 365-day-a-year view of your fan, get a very good understanding of everything about the fan, and there we go, and be able to use that information, all of that data, for actionable intelligence. That's what we're going to talk about today. Here's our agenda. Clive Pearson is the CEO of Qualx Consulting Services. My name's Kevin Dillon. I'll give you a little bit about us in a second. I'm the director of the sports practice. We're going to talk about our backgrounds, but mainly the background of the company, Qualx, because we've been in business analytics for a long time. Then we're going to talk about what and how companies are enabling actionable intelligence and what that means. We're going to talk about a sports or fan-centric vision for sports teams, look at weaknesses, look at key areas of focus, implement quick wins, Qualx in sports, talk a little bit about that, and then our main focus here is to talk to some sports teams. We have John Morris with the New York Mets who is with us. I'm going to introduce him and have him talk a little bit as well. And then we're going to talk about treasure data and the infrastructure, and Glenn Davis will be talking about that. And then Brandon Ramsey is with Golden State Warriors. He'll also be talking, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So that's our agenda for the day. A little bit about Clive. Clive is the CEO of Qualx, and Qualx has been doing business intelligence for 20+ years, and I'm not going to go read through this about Clive or myself. Clive's a great guy to work for, and he's sitting next to me, so of course I'm going to say that. And by the way, he's going to jump in whenever I forget to say something or say something incorrectly. So if you hear him jumping in, that will be that. The idea here about us is you can look us up on LinkedIn or get some more information about us. But let me jump into this because we do have a lot to go through. So this is about Qualx and our, let's call it our growth cycle. We started doing business intelligence back in 1995, and we started building a foundation. And the foundation is really an underlying data infrastructure for gathering data, normalizing, cleaning data, and then putting data together for analytics. And if you look at by the 2000 to 2005, we actually built an application which is a gaming data model, gaming meaning for casinos. So patron value optimization for casinos is a gaming data model. Then from 2005 to 2010, sorry, we actually productized those data models, and we created an IQ gaming and an IQ sports data model. And then migrated those from a SaaS platform to Microsoft and to SAP. And at this point, we've got product extensions. So we've got a very mature product and a lot of extensions beyond the data model itself. Extensions around downstream applications which focus on customer intelligence and campaign management, customer segmentation, modeling, and predictive analytics, and we're going to talk about all of these today. So let me jump forward here. these are some different types of data that companies are using to enable actionable intelligence. And actionable intelligence, we really mean being able to look at data, analyze it, whether it's predictive analytics, whether it's investigative data analysis, whatever it might be. Take that data and do some business improvements, some actionable intelligence to upgrade your business, to improve your business. So here we're looking at the numbers on the bottom here. We're looking at basically using analytics. This is Ventana Research, so it's a Forrester, Gardner, and they're talking about these different percentages, but here is what they're saying. Realize a competitive advantage, new revenue opportunities, increased profitability, analysis for product recommendation, analytics for customer service. Basically, all areas of your business and business improvements using data and analysis. Now, we're going to talk a little bit at this point about specifically sports teams and sports team infrastructure, and actually the infrastructure or the data model that Qualx has built for sports. It's a fan-centric database, or fans, and it's built around all types of data. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but the idea is, if you look at the left side, or across the top, there's league data. There's the left side. A lot of that league data needs to come down to the clubs and clubs and team level, so the teams can use that data for sales and marketing directly to the fans. There's league data. If you're looking at the center now of this screen, there's league data that the leagues want to take directly to the fans for sales and marketing activities. And then if you look at the right side, there's sponsors, and sponsors also want to look at this data and take this data and use sales and marketing to go directly to the fans. And in addition to, again, sponsors, league data attracting sponsors, and league data attracting clubs. So the idea here is, in sports, the fan data is the central, it is a CRM centralized data. Looking at some of the weaknesses, these are weaknesses or strengths depending on if, as a sports team, you've implemented some of these. But what we find as we talk to sports teams, what we find is that when teams have not implemented, or leagues have not implemented a data warehouse and brought their data sources together in one place, there's definitely a lack of integration, limited infrastructure. The idea being that with these weaknesses, to overcome these weaknesses, you must bring the data together and do analytics around that data. And having the ability to do something with that data starts with getting it together. Again, a little more information about that is being able to trust your data. The information in this particular slide is really about, can you trust can you trust the data and the quality of the data? And what we find is, if you haven't started investigating your data, it's probably needs some work. This slide talks to different types of data being out there, and just the ability to organize in one location, normalize the data so that it's matching each other, and then be able to trust that data and use that data for analytics. And that's not a trivial step. That just to get data together and normalize it is not a trivial step. So the areas of focus really are around a centralized infrastructure, consolidating and enhancing the data, building value into the data, and then the analytics capability to attack and address that data, and then what actionable items we can do with that data. And we talked a little bit about 365-degree fan view, and I'm going to move in and give you some more examples around the different types of data and how and what that means around a 365-degree view of a fan. First, in talking about quality management and analytics, so here are some examples of building this infrastructure and the benefits of this infrastructure. So customer engagements and transactions across all touch points are only accessible when you have all your data together in a centralized data warehouse, and having that clean, having the data clean, having it quality data gives you the ability to start addressing it. From an analytics and modeling standpoint, there's hundreds of directions you can take in looking at data. Some of the examples here around data mining are and recency, frequency, monetization models, VIPs, score your customers with respect to how much money they're spending and how recent and frequent they come to events, around their propensity to buy season tickets, forecasting, price optimization, dynamic pricing, price elasticity. Actually hundreds of directions can be taken around modeling and analytics when you've gathered the data and brought it together in one place. This is a quick example about a quick win. So look at, and again, this is just a quick example, but to give you an idea, looking at a team's database and then combining that with the league's database and looking at other things other than just the team's database, which could be ticketing information. The league's database has additional marketing information, online video and subscriptions. Again, this is all online merchandise purchasing, international events. So combining all that together just immediately gives, and this is an example, gave an increase by about $50 in the average sales per email. Again, this is just one example, but the idea again is quick wins and doing some basic, simple, actionable items to generate business improvement. Now here we're getting into a little more of the 365-degree idea around getting to the fans, and we're looking at when they're at the games, when they're not at the games, when they're there before the games, what are they doing when they're not there? When you're looking at social media data, when you're looking at demographics data, when you're looking at all of this type of data and coordinating it together to identify what attributes are with specific customers and fans, you get a much better idea. The idea here is marketing and targeted and focused marketing campaigns before games, during games, and after games. Again, some examples of that being prior to games, you've got extra tickets in the stadium, sending out some discount emails and mobile campaigns. During the game, sending to mobile devices, sending coupons and offers around discounts on merchandise, post-event sending surveys about, who did you think was the best player, and we're having an all-star contest, and those types of things. But basically, getting to the fans the information you want to get to them and understanding from them what they like and what they don't like, and getting a full 360-degree view of those fans. And again, if you look at the right side over here, these are some of the benefits that you get. We've been in the sports business for some time, and if you look at the left side, basically these are the types of, just some example of types of data, from social media, ticketing data, mobile and web information, beacon data, where you are when you're at malls, where you are when you're other areas outside of the stadium, Wi-Fi and beacon data when you're in the stadium, and what you're doing and where you're going through the stadium. All of this type of information, upgraded seats. When this information is all put together, again, the idea is if you look at the right side here, the idea is to identify and understand the fans for better segmentation and better targeted marketing, and to go in and actually engage and recognize who these people are and what are their purchasing behavior, what is their social media behavior, what are their demographics, how many people per household and their ages, those kinds of things, and getting and making a convenient way to connect with them that they want, with the right targeted information that they want, and not having them opt out of different types of campaigns. And then the last thing is really about getting more fans to the events, getting more spend before and after the events and during the events. And again, this is another survey on the bottom, or excuse me, another McKinsey on the bottom is saying that 15 to 50% of earnings growth is going to come from technology enabling innovations. And again, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about innovation around businesses. This is the Qualx commercial part, so let me cover this real quick and then move on. I think I've talked a little bit more than we wanted to. So basically, we've been in business a long time doing business analytics, and you can see the rest of this. And then here's a picture of the logos of some of our clients. As you saw previously, we have 200 plus around the world. And with this, I want to keep to as much of the time as I can. Let me introduce John Morris. John Morris is an Executive Director of Business Intelligence and Analytics. He's with the New York Mets, and we've been working with John for several years. And John, are you there?
I'm here, Kevin.
Good. Let me turn it over to you then and let you start talking. Why don't you just give me the heads up when it's time to change slides?
Sure thing. So thanks very much for the introduction. Like Kevin said, we've been working with Qualix for the last 2 years. We came on board after we signed a sponsorship deal with SAS and quickly realized we were out of our depth with the technology we had agreed to start using and our ability to use it. And so we contracted with Qualix, and they allow us to really focus on our business while they maintain their business. And so we don't worry about the deep technical underpinnings of how the data warehouse works or what the job schedule looks like, but we can focus on ticketing, sponsorship, merchandise, food and beverage, the things that pay our bills and pay my mortgage and allow me to focus on the things that are more important. I've got a technical background. I'm a mathematician and an engineer by training, and so what my team will do is we will prepare rough queries. We've got a handful of databases that get rolled into the data warehouse, and if we have a quick query or an idea of what we'd like to do, we can work with someone from Kevin's team who's available practically around the clock and say, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're doing at small scale. Here's the first 50 rows. Can you make it scale and schedule it for 50 million rows a day or 50 million rows over the life of our data set right now and then increment it hourly or daily as required. We have some remote monitoring in place, and so we'll occasionally get a warning saying a hard drive failed or a network card went down, and we've already routed around it. And so we'll get information, the following things went wrong, and we are fixing this, and I haven't finished my first cup of coffee. So again, it just goes back to allowing me to not think about the technology that underlies our technology. It allows us to focus on delivering information to the folks who need it. And the distributed staff from Qualix, they use a remote staffing model, and Clive can probably speak more to that. But we've worked with folks in New York, Miami, Columbus, Ohio, and the Philippines. And so if we need something done at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m., it doesn't matter when we ask. There's always someone available with the expertise to do what we're looking for. All right, Kevin, next slide, please. All right. So our technical stack is well, we try to be pretty lean. In terms of the output stack, it's SaaS, so we have an Enterprise Guide, Enterprise Miner, and a Visual Analytics or VA license, along with Microsoft Dynamics on-premise for our customer relationship management software. The data inbound comes from an ever-growing number of sources, primarily our ticketing system, which is an Oracle database. We have our parking system, which is run with a Google Sheet. We are a small company despite our large brand, and so sometimes Google is big enough to get the job done, and so we'll use Google Docs. We have our Turnstile, which is run by a company called Alvarado, and a handful of other data sources that are coming in, and so we want to have a comprehensive idea of what our fans are doing. So when you bought the ticket, when you arrived to park at the ballpark, and when you scanned in are handled by 3 different databases, but we want to have an understanding of who you are as a customer. What does your purchase behavior look like? And using Qualix and using a few other tools, we've been able to come up with a comprehensive history of how folks got into our data flow and how folks got into our customer base and how can we maintain them. The average ticket purchase at Citi Field is 4 tickets. Mom, dad, and the 2 kids is stereotypical. And the average number of games, or the modal number of games attended by that family of 4 is 1. And so if I could ask anybody to come to a second game or bring a 5th person to the game, I'd be raising my revenue between 25 and 100%. And it's not a very big ask to say, hey, Clive, do you want to come to a second game this year? The question is, how do I ask that? How do I ask it? How do I ask that from the client in a reasonable way? And how can I, which client should I ask first? And Qualix allows us to understand our most engaged customers. The dashboards that we've built using Visual Analytics based on data that Qualix has pulled for us allow us to deliver information across the spectrum of individuals inside our organization. So we have sales reps who are fresh out of college, have gone through 10 days of training, and we drop them in front of a dashboard that tells them these are their sales, these are their payments, these are the receivables they need to chase down. And we have a dashboard that rolls all the way up to the chief operating officer, where he can see this is, these are our sales, these are our payments, these are our receivables, but the granularity scales, right? The chief operating officer is more concerned with the total receivables, not individual accounts. And then we'll spin special reports off for managers, for our folks in accounting and finance, and for our friends out in sponsorship. We also have an opportunity to display information back to the rep and back to their managers to tell them how they're doing on the things what we want them to do well on. And so, Kevin, I think on the next slide I can talk to, or maybe that 4th slide. Actually, yeah, let's jump to the 4th slide and I'll come back. So each of the sales reps have this opportunity to see all of their campaigns in real time. So as they're making phone calls, did I give you 5 slides, Kevin? There's one with the bar graph. I think it's there we go. So each of our sales reps, as they make phone calls, as they make emails, as they receive correspondence back from clients, they can see how they're doing against each of the campaigns. And this is 3 campaigns that I picked at pseudo-random against a rep I picked at pseudo-random. So each rep would see a dashboard like this, and the manager for that rep would see this across all of their sales reps. And so in their weekly conversation, how's it going? Well, things are going really well. And then you look at how big that no contact bar is across all campaigns, well, that's a more reliable indicator of how things are going. We are tying this into, and we've tied this into all the systems we've had access to, and just in the last 2 weeks, we rolled out a new phone system, so that'll be next on our integration docket. But all this information is collected automatically. And so the rep could click. I made 100 phone calls today. When we query the phone system, we don't see any. That's the problem. So this allows us to collect information automatically from as many sources as we have available to us and display it back in a single dashboard. Okay, Kevin, can we go back to that third slide? Here we go. So operationally, Qualix has allowed us to deliver information to the nuts and bolts, the grinding gears that make the ballpark run. So between purchasing a ticket and you coming into the ballpark, you may ask for UPS mail, you may ask for a scoreboard greeting because it's your anniversary. All that information is still done in some manual way. Someone has to print tickets and put them in an envelope. Someone has to type "Happy Birthday, Richard" into the scoreboard Chiron machine. And so we have the ability to collect and distribute that information to the folks who need it. Aramark, our concessionaire, needs to know who's in the suite. So if John is in suite 1, they will call me a week before the game and ask John, do you want hamburgers or lobster? And they'll call Clive, who's in suite 2, and ask him that same question. So on the day of the game, there's no looking at menus. There's no haggling over, this isn't what I agreed to. The information is available to anybody who needs it on the Aramark side, on our group sales and service side, and it allows for us, our fans to focus on having a good time at the game. We can monitor turnstile activity in real time, so we see most of our fans arrive somewhere in between 90 and 45 minutes prior to first pitch. We'd love to push that out as far as possible. The more people here sooner, the smaller the lines, the faster food gets delivered, the better experience everyone has. But there's always going to be that crush right at first pitch at 7:10 for most nights that we want to monitor. How can we do this better? And so we need to know where people are coming, and if there are things that are breaking, we can see that in real time. And then one of the last things we put together was a visualizer for inventory. So looking at a particular game, looking at a single game, I can see all inventory. What does every seat look like across game 1? But what we started seeing were requests from friends, families, corporations saying, I'd really like to host a group. I want to take 100 friends to a game. I don't care about the first game or the last game. I just need to know that there's the available inventory for me to bring 100 friends. And so we built an inventory visualizer that allows us to see all of our suites across all 81 games. And at a moment's glance, a sales rep can quote back what's available for a particular constituency. And all that's being pushed through SaaS. It's a simple query against our unsold ticket base, and Qualix has been able to load that up, and that loads once a day because our inventory doesn't churn so quickly, but there's nothing stopping us from churning it more frequently. And then finally, at the end of each game, we get a quick email that said, this is the number of tickets that were sold at the following times. This is the revenue that was generated at each hour during the day. And then once the game is closed out, we get a final line. There were X people here. We made Y dollars in revenue, and we can start again the next day. We monitor the secondary market. It tells us, it's a little bit of an indicator how our single game pricing is being impacted by people who are reselling tickets. And so we are fully dynamic here. We can change the price of our best seat from $100 to $300 to $1 if we wanted. And so part of our understanding of the demand is coming from StubHub, coming from the secondary market. What are people who already bought these tickets selling them for? And allowing us to look at both the StubHub listings and the completed StubHub sales, we can make an evaluation of where demand and supply meet. And so the StubHub database is tremendous because it's anybody who has an inkling of selling a ticket can post one. And so you may be looking at several million or tens of millions of listings over the course of a season, and Qualix allows us to digest that in a readily accessible way. All right, I think that's all I prepared. So Kevin, please direct traffic as need be.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that, and we appreciate your information. At this point, let me introduce Glenn Davis. And Glenn, I think, are you going to take it away from here?
Yes, I am, Kevin. Thank you so much. Okay. And Kevin and John, really great presentation. Yeah, so we are Treasure Data, and if you can just flip back to the previous screen for just a moment, Kevin. So I'm the product marketing guy for marketing solutions at Treasure Data, and what we focus on is, you know, when Kevin talks about that fan 365-degree customer view, if you broaden that across all industries, right? You just substitute the word customer for the word fan, and you'll see that this is a universal problem that all companies face. And when we help our customers, we see this pattern emerges that there are three problems that we see happening over and over and over again across all enterprise. And that is, and we can go to the next slide, that if you are a data-driven enterprise, right, the more data that you collect, the more likely it is that that data is going to be disconnected, delayed, and inaccessible. So what that means is, if your data is not, like, you're collecting data from a lot of different sources. You got data in your CRM, you're collecting data from mobile and web, and all of that data, when it's not connected, that causes you to lose value in your data, right? So if you know who your current customers are, and you can't connect that with your incoming leads, so that you know which of your incoming leads is a customer and who's not, eventually you will have a need to know something that you don't know, and you'll end up wasting money as a result, for instance. If your data is not current, if it's delayed, then your data is losing value over time. Data has a half-life. The other thing that is important to think about here too is that you need access to all of your data. You need access to the current data, and you need access to all of your historical data in order to get the maximum ROI from your business applications. Like, again, your CRM, your marketing automation, your analytics from your web and mobile sources. So what Treasure Data does is we have this concept of live data management. And what that means is that we take all that data, and if you take us to the next slide, live data is data that is connected, it's current, and it's easily accessible. So you have the data that you need at your fingertips when you need it. And if you go to the next slide, we'll just fly through this. Over on the left-hand side here, if you take a look at your data sources, right, I talked about your CRM data, your marketing data, demographic data on your customers, your customer service data, data that you're collecting from web and mobile, even data that you are collecting from the Internet of Things, which is a growing use case for a lot of different businesses, retail, etc. We unify that data, all of those data sources, and we do this is a plug-and-play solution. It's important for me to emphasize this. This is a system that is owned by the marketing department. That means it's a customer data platform, and the marketing department can do all of this without engineering support. So it brings a lot of power to what you're able to do with that data, like you see kind of in Qualix, right, where they unify the data and give you this fan 365 view that drives a lot of business value for teams. It allows you to analyze the data, so you can see the patterns in the data that predict what your outcomes are going to be if you do certain certain actions, right? We can also activate the data, and this is what distinguishes us from a lot of other platforms that are out there. We have advanced artificial intelligence available, and again, it runs automatically behind the scenes, so you can do things like real, true, personalized one-to-one marketing, for instance. And you can even do really sophisticated multi-touch attribution. So, and we'll be actually covering that in another webinar. marketing optimization, customer 360, personalization, A/B testing, churn detection, and we can actually let you monitor your business KPIs and do predictive maintenance. And it's all plug and play. And last but not least, I'll just go to if you go to the next slide, Kevin. We have, we work with a lot of great customers. We got Warner Brothers, Yahoo, Subaru, Mitsubishi, Pioneer, a lot of GE Healthcare. So if you want to find out more about the use cases that we support, that's at treasuredata.com. And now I'm excited to turn this over to Brandon Ramsey. Brandon is the Director of Business Analytics and Strategy at the Golden State Warriors. Take it away, Brandon.
Thank you. So I've been with Golden State about 2 years now. We've been working with Qualix for about 6 months. And kind of going into this engagement, we've had 2 unique problems. One is the amount of data we're trying to evaluate, analyze, and activate. 2 is just access to that data. What Qualix has really done for us is built out our entire data warehouse, the entire environment. They are persistently available to us. So Kevin and our account managers are always on call. The data is always available. And lastly, they've really partnered with us, and I really mean that from end to end. So really from an architecture perspective, business intelligence, the analytics, and reporting. It hasn't been something where they've kind of built it and kind of just let us run through it. So it's really kind of been a hand-holding process as we kind of get up and running. Like I said, we've only been through it with 6 months. What this has really allowed us here at Golden State to do is a couple things. Number one, just kind of really a byproduct of all this has really been the fact that my team has really kind of come together throughout this. Previously, I had one guy, knee deep in ticketing, another in marketing, another with, maybe events and sponsorship, because we support the entire company. And so having kind of shared tools has really brought about shared processes. And really kind of more of a shared vision. And I didn't really see that coming, but it's been, I feel like, really healthy because no longer are we kind of stuck on our various silos, but rather we're working together for a common goal. I feel like to date we've had a pretty good understanding of our business on a native application basis, meaning our ticketing guy knows the primary, secondary market, our ticket scans, the science of the ticketing market extremely well. Same thing with sponsorship. We know our margins, we know our sell rates, we know our rate card extremely well. What the Qualix engagement has done for us has really allowed us to path our users across all these source systems. And so now we're able to see people hit our digital ecosystem, become a fan, see when they scan their tickets, see if they connect to our in-game Wi-Fi system, see if they're upgrading their tickets from the upper bowl to the lower bowl via our Experience app. And so that's just been a huge help, kind of making that a little bit more practical in terms of how we activate that. Now we can see how we're acquiring these customers. And so now when we go to activate them, we can say, rather than, hey, we know you now are opted into our database, or you're now a new fan, but rather, thanks for connecting to our Wi-Fi, or thank you for upgrading your seats. And so we've really made our customer touch points that much more personal. And we've seen a subsequent lift in all of our engagement rates across the board. So they've also given us better access to kind of game day data, so real-time ticketing scans. So if we're looking for Mr. and Mrs. Smith who just came to the arena, just scanned their ticket, we can notify the rep in near real time. So that's kind of a really high-level understanding of kind of what our environment is and kind of what we've done with it. Like I said, we're only about 6 months in and kind of growing each day. So with that, I'll probably turn it back over to Kevin.
Okay, thank you very much, Brandon. And thank you, everyone, for participating. I know we took a little bit extra time, more than we wanted, but we do have some time for questions and some discussion points. If anybody has some discussions,
Kevin, we've got some questions coming in already, so I'll go ahead and relay them. So the first one we got is from Andy, and he was wondering, when you refer to sports teams, are you only focusing on professional teams, or do these ideas also apply to college teams?
This is Clive. Absolutely applies to college teams, from the sense of the fan and the interaction and the touch points. They're pretty much all similar, so it absolutely applies to collegiate level sports. Absolutely.
Great. Okay, cool. Okay, so this question is from Prakar. How much IT help is needed in implementing and running a fan data platform?
Well, this is Kevin. I should probably ask Brandon or John to better answer that from their perspectives.
Sure, this is John. I'll happily jump in. So depending, it all depends. So our ticketing database is an on-premise replicated copy of the remote hosted database from tickets.com. And so the servers here, we pointed Qualix to it, and because I think we were Qualix's first tickets.com client, we worked with them to define the data dictionary and the interaction between those tables. Ticketmaster, which I have no experience with, is a fairly well understood data set, and so if your organization is a Ticketmaster or well, Clive and Kevin can speak to which ticketing platforms they're familiar with, but it's a great many more than when we started 3 years ago. And I suppose it depends on the complexity of your stack. If you understand your databases, the implementation will certainly be easier, but by no means will you have to roll up your sleeves and swap servers. If Qualix has access to the server, they can access it from anywhere, and if they have an understanding of the data in there or an understanding of the relationships, they can build the IQ model as needed.
Yeah,
Cool.
This is Brandon from Golden State. I would echo that. I would say that from the onset, it's fairly IT heavy in terms of really understanding kind of where the vision, what the goals, what those requirements are, and kind of getting that kind of the functional working relationship up and running, getting beyond the firewalls. As you guys all know, working at companies, there's typically all sorts of logins and firewalls and bandwidth issues, but I think once you have that nailed down, you're fairly smooth sailing for the most part with Qualix.
Okay, great. Cool. We have another question from Tim. So how did the Warriors and the Mets get buy-in from the stakeholders to be able to start this project?
Very delicately, John here. So this is by no means a small undertaking, and so this was the result of probably 2 years worth of conversations on our side, and really the last 6 months where conversation really took off. SaaS as an enterprise level piece of software is not as affordable as Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, and so making the case, and I'm sure the folks at Qualix are more than happy to make that case, and Treasure Data may certainly be involved as well. The case for better business intelligence is I'm the executive director of business intelligence, so I'm a little biased, but it's one of those things that you don't want to make your case by failing. Why didn't this work? Because Excel does not meet all the demands, and so if you can get to a point where there's some friction or some pain with your boss currently, because Excel and Access are up against the limits of what you can or want to do, then yeah, it's time to join the big leagues.
Yeah, we were kind of in a similar boat, Brandon from Golden State. We just, like John said, we just kind of outgrew Excel and Access. It was, and it just kind of it became like kind of a persistent pain point for us. And it's like, look, we were asking for more sophisticated modeling and analysis as we were kind of evolving in our analytics practice here. And so then the conversation kind of shifted to like, look, we can do X, Y, and Z, but here's what we need to do that. And so out of that conversation, it said like, look, we need to get a little more sophisticated, and here's some tools and technologies that are going to really help us kind of get there.
Yeah, and this is Glenn from Treasure Data. I just basically want to emphasize what Brendan and John are saying. What I see as the common theme is you really need to have a champion in your organization for data-driven business, right? And there's always a gap. I would say, again, like universally, there's a gap between what a company is actually doing in terms of making the best use of their data to drive ROI, and what is possible. And if you see the possibility within your organization and you can point to a specific pain point that you have with your boss, as John said, that can make all the difference in the world. So give me a lever and I'll move the whole world, as Archimedes said.
One last selling point on that. We've had tremendous success both on the buying and the selling side. If your boss finds himself or herself in a room with another boss who has something fancy or can brag about having something fancy, you will see call volumes go up. Hey, that looks really cool. I'd like that. And then on Monday morning, I get a call. Hey, we're going to do this now. Find a way to make it happen. So
that's great.
Great. Great. So we had a question from Gorgie that I can answer. Will playback be available? Yes, it will. Everybody who is attending or signed up will get the recording of this in their email. And then Matt Lee was wondering if there was a demo, and I know for us on the Treasure Data side, you can come to our website and request your own specialized demo. I'm sure something similar for Qualix as well.
I will jump in right there. I will be more than happy to show demos to any of the people that are interested, and I think we should be available, or it would be easy enough to get a hold of us. And we'll be glad to go through all types of demo situations around sports teams and or other industries.
Cool. All right. So that is the questions we have coming in. So I think since we've gone over a little bit, we like to give everybody their time back. Kevin, do you have any final thoughts?
No, appreciate everybody's time and effort. John and Brandon, thank you very much. Glenn, thank you as well, and we're looking forward to hearing more from people who are interested to look more into putting their data together and doing analytics.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic Thursday.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.